Are you familiar with FBI Special Agents Kyle Seraphin?
I'm familiar with the name.
Is that yes?
I'm familiar with the name. Familiar with the name. Familiar with the name.
Let's bring in Kyle Seraphin. He's the FBI whistleblower who helped expose government censorship of our First Amendment rights.
Now, we only have this memo because a recently suspended FBI agent called Kyle Seraphin brought it to the public, and we're grateful that he did. Kyle, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
He's the host of something that strangely is called the Kyle Seraphin Show.
Kyle Seraphin, I can't thank you enough for speaking out. I knew you guys were out there, and I knew it was just a matter of time, but you got a lot of guts putting your face and your name to this. You're doing a service on behalf of the American people, and from the bottom of my cracked and broken heart sometimes, thank you very much.
Take a look behind the curtain with a real whistleblower and American patriot. Prepare to embrace the uncomfortable truth because this program has no time for comforting lies. Here is civil liberties enthusiast, Second Amendment defender, and recovering FBI agent Kyle Seraphin.
Well, hello, my friends. Welcome to the Kyle Seraphin Show. Today is Friday. It is August the 23rd, and we are rolling live right now on Rumble.com, on X, on Facebook. We actually got some of you showing up from Facebook, so thanks for doing that, on YouTube and so on and so forth. You can also join our Locals channel where it runs every single day now at KyleSeraphin.com. It's just my name, KyleSeraphin.com. That's the Locals channel. Make sure you like, subscribe, and notify yourself when these videos go live. Today is Friday, so it is a friendly Friday, and we're going to have Steve Friend joining us momentarily. I'll give you a little taste of what we're going to do today, because I've been weighing this over. I ran it across my my think tank. I ran it across just Steve and my wife. Basically, that was the think tank this morning. And I watched the Kamala Harris speech. Many of you said you're going to wait to see my take on it. I saw people hit me on social media saying, thanks for watching it, before I even watched it. They said, thanks for watching it. I don't want to watch it. I'll wait till you tell me what it's about. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to go through what you're going to see on social media and what the political right has been claiming went on. And a lot of that seems to be the case for the DNC. I'm going to give you some sober sort of analysis from CNN, which is actually pretty good. There's a guy named Scott Jennings on there who's a Republican strategist out of Kentucky. He had some very good takes, so we will share that. And then I think you're going to be uncomfortable because the speech last night was really good. If you're dumb, if you don't ask questions, it was charismatic. It was on point. It had zero substance at all. But it was exactly what the DNC was looking for. A vibes campaign, a high energy. We're going to talk about the electrifying nature of the DNC. They set it up and they delivered what they said they would give the people that were looking for that. That may not be you, and that's definitely not me, but it is somebody in this country. And you guys need to see this. So we're going to play the first 10 minutes of Kamala's speech a little bit later on. I'm going to do it in 2X, and Steve and I will comment on it as we cut in and out of it. Okay? But you need to understand that she delivered a message to an audience that is not us. And I think it was very effective because when I listened to it, I went, this woman is a lot more capable. And don't take it just from me. We've got some additional background on that as well. Okay? That's what today's going to be about. You guys have the preview. Steve's got a hard out at 10:30, so we will lose Steve a little bit. If we have to go a little bit longer, then we will. No big deal. All right. So, guys, it's bad out there, and it might keep getting worse. That means they're going to be coming for you. They're going to be coming for your families. You need to make sure that you're ready. I am ready as well. I rely on my Patriot Supply. Go to preparelikekyle.com. You can check out their mega 3-month emergency food kit right now. That's the one that is on sale. It's jam-packed with 33 different varieties of filling foods, delicious foods. Delicious in an emergency is different than delicious on your normal day. Let's just say that. They've got creamy chicken-flavored rice. They've got old-fashioned spaghetti, savory broccoli cheese soup. Honestly, if you've ever been hungry in the woods, if you've ever had like a long camping trip, you know what I'm talking about. It changes the game for what food tastes like. You're going to get a bonus protein kit. It's going to be diced beef. It's going to have flavorful chicken chunks. They're going to have 3 varieties of beans, 9 different fruits, vegetables, snacks. The variety is the big thing here. All in all, this emergency food kit gives you a whopping 2,500 calories per day. It'll keep you fed and ready to deal with anything, and anything could be coming your way. It is your duty as an American to protect your family. My family is my duty. We want to do this without waiting for handouts or bread lines. You can do that, and it stores for up to 25 years. PrepareLikeKyle.com. Save $300 right now on this 3-month emergency mega food kit. PrepareLikeKyle.com. The shipping is free. That's my big thing. I hate paying for shipping. You guys know what it's all about. Let's bring on my brother from another mother. There he is, Steve Friend. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing well. And hello to Diane Seraphin,
because you are definitely not my mother, but Kyle's also my brother from another mother.
Yeah, my mom just got over being sick, and then she was like, "Now I'm going to go camping." So she just needs to get.
Hopefully, she had some emergency food with her.
I hope they brought like regular food. They have, a whole camper. They've got the RV set up. They bring the dogs. Anyway, it's a thing. The Seraphin elders like to just get out of town, even though they live out of town and they live on acreage. They could literally go camp in their backyard, which is where this podcast started. If you guys are new to the show, we started in a trailer on Diane and Charlie's backyard and the extra acreage on an extension cord, no less. All right, Steve, it's pretty troubling stuff. Are you ready for this? Are you prepared emotionally and mentally to get into this garbage?
I've been trying to psych myself up for this. I guess I probably would have been one of those people that was waiting for you to watch it for me and then just tell me what to think about it. Because
no, I'm going to force feed you. I'm the meme right now of like the pretty girl holding the other pretty girl's hair back and like forcing the milk down her throat or whatever.
That's going to be the general takeaway. I did not watch the RNC. I did not watch the DNC. I am tailor-made, just virgin territory here for you to drop this vomit-inducing, cringe-worthy footage. Let's do this like a Band-Aid. Rip it.
Yeah, we'll rip it right off. By the way, you said tailor-made. I've got Taylor Lorenz later on. That's how bad this is going to get.
You know it was her? Does she have a mask still on?
No, she's good now. I don't know why, but she's good. And she went to the Hotties for Harris rally, so or the party. Anyway, let's start off with the electricity. Okay, today's episode, Kamala electrifies the DNC. Why did I come up with that term? Apparently, that was the term that got marched out. Chuck Schumer even got in on it, even though he's not very good at remembering his lines. When you remind him of his lines, he'll tell you what they are. So here's a little taste of the electrifying nature. Folks, it's going to get real weird today, so tuck in.
And it was though someone had plugged in a cable, a current was connected, and there was pure electricity in the room.
Thank you for sharing with us some of the electricity.
The energy is incredibly electric.
It was just electric.
As sort of electric as I've ever seen it. It was absolutely electric.
Talk to me about the atmosphere in here. Is it electric?
Excitement. It is electric.
Senator Schumer wasn't lying when he was saying that there's a lot of electricity and excitement right now.
So it's incredibly electric.
It's electric. Something just got uncorked.
Room in Chicago, quite electric tonight.
Last night was electric.
It'll be electric.
Electrifying.
The electrification.
There's electricity in this room, there's energy in this room, and there is enthusiasm in this room.
A lot of electricity and energy in this hall across this country like you've never seen.
Not even with Barack Obama in 2008?
I think this rivals Barack Obama in 2008.
Okay.
Yo. What do you think, Steve?
Mockingbird Media is in full-on assault mode. They got their talking points there, no question about it. But I would be derelict if I didn't mention this. There was all this buildup in the media. How would 2024 compare to 1968, the DNC in Chicago, the levels of violence that we saw? 2024 wins. It wins going away because we now have confirmation of 25 fatalities that occurred in Chicago this week at the hands of Planned Parenthood. So DNC 2024 for the win.
I looked into it yesterday. There have also been, when I started the show yesterday, there were 8 homicides listed. And by yesterday afternoon, they had bumped it up to 11 homicides that happened in the city of Chicago during this week. Not at the DNC. So in addition to the abortions that were performed and maybe the sterilizations of men who wanted to have vasectomies, you also had the real opportunity cost of putting all your cops on the line. It was a high violence week in Chicago, which you can find out on
in-kind contribution from the city of Chicago, essentially, right? Because they routed all their police forces over there. So those salaries are essentially an in-kind contribution to the Democrat Party, and those lives lost are read in their ledger as well.
Let me just read this real quick because I'll do a plug for my friends at the at Catholic Vote, and it's worth you guys knowing. In-kind contributions are actually something that are being discussed right now. If you guys are not supporting my friends at Catholic Vote, you're missing out on a really outstanding news aggregator, including this particular article coming from them in today's loop. 40 Days for Life, which is a pro-life organization, calls on the IRS to assess if Planned Parenthood violated the nonprofit rules on in-kind donation after a stint at the DNC offering free abortions. They're making a blatant political move right there. And so Steve kind of tipping the hand on this. We didn't prep that, by the way. But if you guys are not getting the loop, you're missing out on really good reporting like this. If you guys want to read the story and more, and they do have original reporting going on from the Catholic Vote news feed, go to catholicvote.org, 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 at Catholic Vote on all the places, et cetera, et cetera. It's a fantastic, you don't have to be even Christian to get really good stuff. They're going to focus more on pro-life stuff and more Christian-based news, but they are also putting out information that is very political, and it's totally political to offer free abortions outside if you're a nonprofit that's supposedly nonpartisan, because you're not supposed to be partisan there. Kind of fun.
And the vasectomies were great because, you know, I'm not necessarily opposed to them becoming eunuchs on that side. I don't need more procreation occurring, but once the toothpaste is out of the tube, for lack of a better analogy, I think that we have to probably step up, even for the babies of communists.
Yeah, I mean, did Harry Sisson get a vasectomy? I know they were asking about that. Your buddy Natalie Winters was asking about that on War Room the other day because he was doing an ambush assault on Mike Lindell, and they were like,
"Did
Big
Mike get a vasectomy?"
I don't think so, but he did lose his mustache, which means he's less powerful than he was before. And you'll be shocked to learn that if Mike Lindell cuts off his mustache, he looks like Mike Lindell with no mustache.
No, I was talking about the other Big Mike, the real Big Mike with the great deltoids.
Ooh, unclear. If you guys follow me on social media, you know I popped a little fun thing out there because who was it? I think it was the Los Angeles Times said that he propped up a big tent, and it's like, guys. Are we not doing phrasing anymore? Do you remember Archer? You never watched Archer, I imagine. But
I'm not an Archer fan. I'm familiar with it, but I think that they all need an editor for their editor.
Okay. So let's set this further up. These are the ways that you're going to hear people on the right talk about sort of the loony leftists and how goofy they are. And I've got some real goofy clips. So let's show you the clips that you're going to see from other people. And then I'm going to tell you, it's way scarier than this. This looks like this is Paper Tiger routines. Here is someone from, I think, MSNBC talking about how she's the female Obama. And you just heard the end of it there. Obama-like energy. This is kind of that talking. And then you actually see her put her spikes on. And as long as she's on script and on teleprompter, they're not necessarily wrong. I think she's unlikable because I don't want a woman in charge. But here's a little taste. Female Obama. Many, many years ago, they knew this.
I'll be among the unsurprised. My experience listening to Kamala Harris began when tonight's host of the convention, Kerry Washington, said to me, "Would you like to meet the female Obama?" This was in 2009, in the first months of the Obama presidency. And we went along with Reggie Hudlin, who has produced some of the films in this convention, to a Century City law firm, about, 20 people listening to the San Francisco district attorney. And it's one of those moments that it's clearly a once-in-a-lifetime moment. I was sitting there realizing I am seeing the first black woman president, no question about it.
All right, so she's propped up. How propping is that? Is that Big Mike, Big Tent style?
I think this is very expected. We knew this was going to come because once she was selected, not elected, we're going to just dismiss the whole thing we did 6 weeks ago where we said that possibly she's a drain on Joe Biden's electoral prospects because she's the least popular vice president in the history of measuring vice presidents. And now we're just going to have the love fest with her that is probably going to exceed, I don't know, like whenever there's like a royal wedding, as far as the media concerns. It is just going to be in-kind contributions from them. But look, the reality is that Donald Trump was almost assassinated last month. And at that point, I think a lot of people on the right said, election's over, it's done. I didn't see the Democrats panic about that. They were still panicking about Joe Biden being the candidate. And once they swapped him out, it's been smooth sailing on their part, which leads me to the ultimate conclusion that they haven't fortified the election enough that they're going to get certified the winner. In their minds, they're confident.
And that's how you can have these kind of people trotted out. So these are the sort of the crazy types that we're seeing. That electric energy included a lot of this weird stuff. It's very cringeworthy. This is a trans doctor. This is a man in a dress, a fat and ugly man, by the way, too, from New Jersey. So New Jersey, you got to own this. Here we go. And I'm going to play you the loonies. Like I said, this is kind of the highlights, and people are like, they're not serious. I'm going to show you how serious it gets, but we're not there yet.
My name is Dr. Joey Perella, pronouns she, her, hers. I'm a proud resident of the Garden State. I'm proud to stand with Kamala Harris and Tim Walz because they stand with the LGBTQ community.
Something about like having Bruce Springsteen in the background there is real weird. Also, so if you're just listening, you're like, obviously that's a man. You can totally hear that. When I heard the first clip, I was like, it's a fat dude in a dress with like shoulder length, dark hair, claiming to be a doctor named Joey, which is a dude's name generally, or it's a baby kangaroo, I think. And anyway, so they put these people up and they put them front and center. They're appeasing various parts of their base, at least.
and the Bruce Springsteen is supposed to be, he's New Jersey based, and Born in the USA is a very anti-American song, which I do get a kind of a kick out of. And I think it sort of lends the credibility to Catholic Vote. Had a story earlier this week that since the coronavirus lockdowns, we are now at 4 in 10 people actually trust the medical community. So Joey, he, her, they, them, she, him, whatever he thinks that he is, I'm certainly not going to go to him if I have a malady.
No, I don't want to go to that person. That person's nuts. It's kind of like I said, we went to a pediatrician that we really liked. And then when we finally saw her after my son Bodie was born, we roll in there and she was like, oh, it must be incredible for them to like see a person. They haven't seen a person in a couple of years. And you're like, what? And she's wearing masks. And it's like, you deal with kids. You're a pediatrician. Like, kids don't come in here and deal with this problem. And if they get it, they don't even know. So that's pretty strange. I think the grossest, hands down the grossest clip of all of these, and there's nothing funny about this, this is like sadness, this is internalized disgusting, is this woman named Kate Cox. She was a tailor-made setup for the pro-abortion movement to try to get abortion and challenge the state of Texas. Her story doesn't ring true to me, and maybe somebody knows more about medicine than me, but I don't know how it would be that she got to the point in a pregnancy where they said, it's abortion or you'll never have another baby again. I've never heard that delivered. It sounds made up, and the courts didn't agree with her either, by the way, and so she left the state of Texas, but she was trying to overturn Texas's sort of like heartbeat bill, and the Texas Supreme Court was like, nah, we don't think so, dude. You ready for this? This is the ugliest thing. In order to have a baby, I had to kill a baby. That's what she basically makes the argument. When we'll get into this, hold your tongues, folks. This is gross.
I'm Kate Cox, and I love being a mom. I have 2 beautiful children, and my husband and I have always wanted a third. But when I got pregnant, doctors told us our baby would never survive. And if I didn't get an abortion, it would put a future pregnancy at risk. But Trump didn't care. And because of his abortion bans, I had to flee my home. There's nothing pro-family about abortion bans. There's nothing pro-life about letting women suffer and even die. Today, because I found a way to access abortion care, I am pregnant again. And my baby is due in January, just in time to see Kamala Harris sworn in as President of the United States.
Dead babies as political tokens. Ding, 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 ding. What do you think?
Kate Cox is the id of the worst creature who exists on planet Earth, the liberal, white, suburban coexist bumper sticker on the Subaru living in a cul-de-sac woman who will happily murder a baby and then bring one just in time for, just political reasons. How much you want to bet that they designed that pregnancy to come in so she could make that statement during the DNC. But if she couldn't do that, and when she brings that child to term, if she elects to do it, not say that, hey, she has a toe still in the birth canal, so it's up to me to make that decision to just suck out its brain. She will then encourage the child to castrate themselves at some point so that she can impress her friends while sipping mimosas at Sunday brunch, because the liberal, white, suburban Karen, Kate Cox, is the worst creature on earth.
The scariest thing for me, I guess, is that she's already using a baby as a political token. We need to kill babies to have babies. And this is the same party that yesterday there was this running around. They were talking about how Tim Walz's kid is basically a handicapped person. And so we were making fun of a handicapped person who was standing up and sobbing like a little bitch when his dad was accepting something that is really not an emotional thing. It's like your dad is a mediocre tyrant from a mediocre state. Sorry, Minnesota, you guys have like disappeared into the dustbins of garbage. When I see that you order the National Guard to go and shoot your own citizens and run them into their houses, like, you're a piece of garbage. You're not American. You're an oath violator. And this is a guy who supposedly swore an oath to the Constitution as an enlisted soldier and so on, right? So all that goes down. And then it comes out that it's like, well, he's not actually disabled. He has like ADHD and he has an anxiety disorder. Do you know who has anxiety disorders? Apparently me, because I won't go into a crowd that size. It makes me very uncomfortable because I can't control it and I don't like it. I don't do crowds. That kid is in a crowd And they went back and they said he has a non-verbal learning disability, which means that he doesn't recognize patterns and social cues, or he doesn't respond like normally to things. He's a flippin' nerd, and he's a teenager. That's exactly what we used to call them dumbasses when we were in high school, right? It's like, hey, what's wrong with so-and-so? I don't know. He's a dumbass. He didn't do his homework. He's not capable of learning math.
Being socially awkward is not a psychological condition that needs diagnoses and then medication and therapy. You just need to say like, hey, stop being weird.
You're a teenage boy. You're weird. Like, that's just it. Like, there's all kinds of weird stuff going on. And all you guys that are out there saying that he's autistic. No, he's not autistic. He's not diagnosed on the spectrum. Nobody has produced this. This all comes from an article that most of you have never read, which was in People magazine, where they were like, sometime around the time he was in high school, we realized he was a little different than his friends. He was kind of retarded. He just sat in his room and played video games, and he was a weirdo. Dude, number one, how disconnected are you from your kids? And it's called being a teenager. There's a lot of teenagers that are like not acting the way that other kids do, except that's what all teenagers do. He's probably in his room beating off. Like, he's just a creeper. So anyway, all of that is to be said. And then I'm going to show this video, because we got this little taste of like Coach Tim, and I'm going to play his like what a great guy he is, and he's like inspiring, and he made fun of JD Vance because JD Vance went to Yale and none of his students went to Yale. I feel like that's a comment on you. That's a weird flex to say none of my students were exceptional and went to Yale. Go ahead.
When I first read it, I said, was he talking about his own class? Well, like his own classmates when he was in school? He's like, hey, none of my buddies went to Yale. We're all idiots.
No, he was talking about his students that he was teaching.
About his students, it's even worse.
He's like, my kids are totally regular. Like, they're totally regular and mediocre, just like me. Like, I'm mediocre and I've never done anything exceptional, and neither of my students. I never inspired anybody to do greatness, whatever that looks like. Yale used to be a kind of an accomplishment.
Yeah, and for JD Vance particularly, because his background, his biography coming up the way he did through hardship to do that. I mean, it's impressive. I mean, I don't respect the Ivy League degrees now, the pedigrees that you could probably call them, because they're just these woke institutions. However, it's still extremely hard to get in there, particularly for JD Vance, because when the time he was applying, there was affirmative action in place.
That's right. Okay, so here's the video, and we're going to just loop this for a little bit here and kind of talk about it. The video is that when they're walking on stage, Waltz is pretty darn aggressive with his 17-year-old son, who looks very flustered when he grabs him. So this got thrown all over the social media, and it looks pretty ugly. Like, look at this. He's like, he looks pissed. And I don't know what this means. Like, sometimes dads do things like that. Like, hey, like, get your shit together or whatever. But
was a teleprompter they're going to hit him in the head, or is that just sort of an optical illusion? Like the teleprompter's not close to them.
No, it's optical illusion. That's how the teleprompters look. They're just walking on stage, and he's yanking him along. I don't know. Like, if my dad tried to yank me along at 17, we would have had like a moment, I think, because I
didn't hold my dad's hand at age 17.
Also weird. And then he like readjusts the grip so they can go from like this to like the finger intertwined. It's just all weird. It's strange. They're strange people. He does have a certain charisma, kind of Chris Ray style, where he says things that people who are dim believe it. He's not nearly as talented as Kamala, which actually scares me quite a bit. Anyway, this is a little piece that I wanted to share people, that this was going on, and this discussion. None of this stuff is going to move the needle with people that heard the speech, that were there for the speech. This is something that is only going to play to people on the right. And so if you're excited about this kind of thing and you think it's a real deal, like, fine. He may be a bad dude. That's one little moment. It's a strange way to interact. It's not nearly as strange as this lady, who is maybe like, the liberal white ladies are the worst. This is who they aspire to be. A midget who is standing behind a podium that is a shrill lesbian teachers union worker. This is your favorite. This is Randy Weingartner screaming into a podium that she can't reach.
Or family leave, or health care, or housing. Any of the things that are important. Every single day, we need to fight to get Kamala Harris and Tim Walz elected. Are you ready? Are you ready? Yeah. Are you ready?
Yeah. Did you see her jumping?
Lesbian Oompa Loompas are the best.
She's fun. She's really fun. Okay, so that's the cringy stuff. Like I said, this is the stuff that people are playing out there and showing. Okay, this is the what we're up against, and we got this. Here's Tim Walz. It's not a bad little speech. He doesn't suck. There's a reason why he got votes from people that don't think about it and evaluate it. Here's Tim.
But it was those players and my students who inspired me to run for Congress. They saw in me what I had hoped to instill in them, a commitment to the common good, an understanding that we're all in this together, and the belief that a single person can make a real difference for their neighbors. So there I was, a 40-something high school teacher with little kids, zero political experience, and no money, running in a deep red district. But you know what? Never underestimate a public school teacher. Never. But it was...
Okay, so that obviously plays to them. That plays to his crowd. I underestimate public school teachers all the time, so sorry if you are a public school teacher, but that's something you should regularly do. He did win in a district that was deeply red, and he's been doing it for 20 years now, so he doesn't suck at this.
He won, and when he won his governorship, and then they took over the legislature, they went to work right away. They didn't say, hey, we have a narrow margin here. They basically California to Minnesota in a year, to the point where it's probably not salvageable at this point ever again. It's going to be the next California, the next Oregon, the next Washington. Minnesota is completely lost. And he in the state of Minnesota, he's basically said that you can't sit in the front seat as a child at age 12. But if you want to cut your balls off and mom and dad don't want you to, the state will come and remove the child from the family. Like, that to me is way more disturbing. And then he mentioned not even having money. How about this? This guy has been in politics forever. He has no retirement at all. He has no investments whatsoever. He's completely reliant on his pension from the military, his pension from teachers, his pension from the governorship, his pension from Congress, and soon to be his pension as the vice president if things are going to continue this way. So he is all in when he says, we're all in this together to line my pockets. What lengths will he go to cling on to power?
All right. So the other thing that I wanted to bring up, which I had forgotten about earlier, the same group of people that have the Kate Cox that are willing to kill babies to have babies, or whatever the hell the argument there was, they're also 100% okay with killing off your neurodivergent young as long as they're in the womb. But the minute that they come out and we're able to diagnose them as a special, then suddenly they're more special than you and you can't criticize them anymore, even though he's 17. I served in the military with dudes who were 17. We had 17-year-olds come into my basic training flight. And let me just tell you something. A lot of them were tards, like window licking, crayon eating fools. And they still get treated like men. You get treated like a man because you showed up because you're the age of majority or you're right next to it. So being a 17 or an 18-year-old does not mean you're exempt from public scrutiny. He's not a kid, even though we talk about them being a kid in experience. Like, I had dudes that literally would hold their breath for 5-6 minutes underwater because their brain didn't require any oxygen. And when they came up, they looked confused, like where they were, how they got there, what they were supposed to do, and they hadn't completed the 5-minute task that took everybody else 90 seconds to do. It's a thing. It's real. It happens all the time. Like, anybody who's been enlisted and went through basic training knows there's some real dummies out there that enlisted with you, and you make fun of them and you bring them along, and who cares? We had a dude that used to do a thing during the middle of our paramedic class because it was so intense for him. He would disappear into the bathrooms for like 20 minutes. And now, what do you think a guy's doing for 20 minutes in the bathroom, Steve?
No, he's just checking his makeup.
He's having a poop nap. That's what we used to call it. Chamby used to take poop naps. You'd go in there and you'd like look through the doors and you'd see him and he'd be snoring there on the toilet. He would pull his pants down and everything, but he would just sit there and just fall asleep. And he was retarded. Like, he was basically retarded. He was actually way, way goofier than Waltz's son. But anyway, I just always find it interesting that the people that are going to say you can kill babies at any time, totally, like they're deaths of inconvenience right up until the point where we can like call them special. And I think we said it the other day, you and I did privately, like it's not going to be enough for calling him neurodivergent and learning disabled. They're going to eventually have to trans this kid if they want to keep it going, or one of the others, whatever. They need that. He's a white guy.
Mrs. Walls there, who likes the scent of burning tires, is not going to be able to impress her lady friends while she is doing the day drinking at brunch for very long by saying, he's got ADD, we got him on Adderall. She's going to have to actually go through and force him to do the chop. And they might argue that he does need care from them beyond the age of majority, and they'll at least force him to make that decision.
That's an interesting and ugly point. And what's Donald Trump talking about during this time? He's not doing nothing. So here's Donald Trump kind of getting into the game. There's a big contrast between what I'm seeing here. And Trump does a ton of rallies, obviously, but this is the one that came out and I saw clip-wise. He's talking about trainings in the military. So It's on topic. Here we go.
If you want to have a sex change or a social justice seminar, then you can do it somewhere else, but you're not going to do it in the Army, Navy, Coast Guard, Air Force, Space Force, or the United States Marines. Sorry. You're not going to do it there. The military brass that led these absurd and insulting initiatives will likewise be removed, and they will no longer be in command. They're going to be gone so fast.
They're going to be gone so fast. I mean, Trump's on message. He's saying his thing. He's doing what he's supposed to do. But that only plays to the base. There's a lot of people that have no interest in that whatsoever. And so if that's a big topic of yours that you want to talk about, like, you're in the massive, massive minority. Let me do a MyPillow read, if you don't mind, because they just had it on the screen right there. And we'll do one too. There it is. MyPillow.com/Kyle. You guys want to support Mike Lindell, the mustache list, the mustachio list. Is that a thing? Mike Lindell. You can go to MyPillow.com/Kyle. It supports our program too. Save up to 50% on all the various MyPillow products. You guys know I don't like their pillows, but I do use their towels. My folks use their sheets. My friends use their slides, their slippers, and their sandals. So we do some MyPillow. It's not my favorite thing in the world, but it's an opportunity. And if you're going to spend money there, you might as well use our promo code. It'll save you just as much as anybody else. MyPillow.com/Kyle, Kyle, or use the promo code Kyle at checkout. I always love doing sort of half-ass promo reads. It makes people laugh. It makes me laugh because I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to say things are good that are not good. That's why we did the gold thing that we did. It's like, we don't take money for products unless they actually work okay. In any case, what do you got, Steve?
You're extraordinary and authentic. That's why we know that about you. Look, let me lean on another Kamala Harris term, duality, which is what the college kid does who doesn't have the ability to articulate a point strongly and defend it. So he just says there's a duality here. And he makes both points that he's heard from other people who have talked, and he's just piggybacking on those points. But there actually is a duality here for what I think the opportunity is for Donald Trump. He's orange man bad, orange Hitler, right, from the DNC perspective. And he accepts that premise and that label on certain things, but not others. So he's accepted it on the transing issue in the military. I'd like to see him go further with that with the kids and not just say, well, with parental consent. No, it's got to be all in or not, because you're going to own that label whatsoever. He's actually now leaned into the Feds for Freedom. He was meeting with those guys from the military about the mandate to get the vaccine, and he's still on record as defending Operation Warp Speed. I'd like to see him go there on abortion. He's already been the guy, they appointed the justices that turned over Roe. Do you think that if he pivots and he goes back to the middle, that somebody's going to be like, he eased his position on abortion, so I think that I'm going to vote for Donald Trump? No, that he's owned the message as being the most pro-life president in the history of the country. Whether it's true or not ideologically, he needs to lean into that and get out the people that are the evangelical base. Is it going to be 23% of the electorate or 26 or 27? That's going to be a difference.
Okay, so this, I think, is the other thing. Men, working class men, are Donald Trump's base. They used to be the base, the working, the labor, this kind of stuff. He can lean into this as well. Scott Jennings has been doing really, really good commentary. He's the only sane voice on CNN. I listen to some Anderson Cooper and some Van Jones and some of these others. They're all sycophants. And I've recently started following Scott Jennings because he's doing a great job of this. And this is something he said a couple days ago about Bill Clinton. First of all, it's really weird because Bill Clinton, the guy who sexually abused a young person and used his position and authority, how he survives the Me Too movement and ends up on a stage, it just shows you how morally compromised. And also, Bill Clinton was the safe, legal, and rare. He was also the shut the border down and protect our workers. So he's a different kind of guy. He's obviously given up all of that to be able to stay relevant politically, even though he's 1,000 years old as well. Scott Jennings talking about Bill Clinton, I think this is actually probably some of the most poignant commentary. And then we're going to go right to where you just said, that Donald Trump needs to be set up as the opposite because Kamala Harris has already framed it. And you might as well just accept it. Here's Scott Jennings doing some sobriety for the folks on CNN that don't pay attention.
Makes me think about my dad in Western Kentucky. When I was growing up out there, my dad and all the other guys like my dad, blue collar guys, they love Bill Clinton. All Clinton guys. And now my dad and every single one of them that I know, all Donald Trump guys. And when I see him come out here tonight and I think about the audience in this convention, I think the Democratic Party did once have a bunch of people who Bill Clinton would appeal to. I think they're gone. I think the people who, the blue-collar labor piece of the Democratic Party that propelled Bill Clinton in the 90s has completely and totally migrated over to Donald Trump. And so I wonder about the younger audience and how they view somebody like Bill Clinton today, because he's not a blue-collar hero to them. They know a lot of other things about him that, frankly, make me wonder how in the world he still makes these kinds of stages, to be honest.
Well, I see it.
I disagree with that. But, like, how do you disagree with that?
You can't, because for the younger people that they're clearly trying to bring under their tent, Bill Clinton is an elder statesman. He's not a president that you and I can remember actually being the president. And when you look back into history, the things that actually happened during his administration, not a fan of most of it, but they did pass the crime bill, the 94 crime bill. He sent the feds after Julian Gonzalez, right? That was during the Bill Clinton administration. And now it's, if there's a 25
Alien Gonzalez, not Julio. Alien Gonzalez. I always remember that from the racial draft that Dave Chappelle did.
Ah, okay. Well, you're more hip with the comics than I am. I'm not a Chappelle guy. But Bill Clinton, he's still able to take this speech. He's a swap out for Joe Biden, right? You need to have the elder statesman. Joe Biden can't be there. They can say, "Oh, he gave this great goodbye speech," and then they quickly removed him from the convention hall because they just can't have him there.
He literally watched Kamala's speech from home at like his beach house.
Do you think he watched it, or is he sundowning?
There's a picture of him standing in front of a TV with her coming on stage. So
that's his body double. Talk to Ryan Matta.
Or my wife, it turns out. Okay. How many speeches have you given in the Villages?
2 or 3.
Can you explain what the Villages are for people?
The Villages can be seen from space. It's a very large population in Florida, Central Florida, a little bit south of Orlando, elderly, all different demographics. It's not just like one gated community. It's multiple gated communities. We had to investigate them from the FBI because there was a lot of elder fraud that would occur there. We would go down there and talk to them. But it's a huge community of retired folks. And I believe it's the highest STD population in the country.
That's not what I was looking for. Oh, it's so gross. Why are we talking about that? Apparently the like button is not working on Rumble right now, which is kind of fun. So people are panicking. I don't think it's the deep state, folks. I watched Rumble crash yesterday. I don't know what's going on, but okay. So very large. How does it swing politically, would you say, the Villages?
Very hard right, very conservative. I mean, you're talking about people that fled from New York and New Jersey, and it wasn't just for the weather. And they've been fortified even further and further to the right. And I mean, if you're going to characterize it, it used to be a solidly Republican. Now they're firmly MAGA.
Okay. They're a MAGA group. So I want your weigh in on this. I don't really trust the source, but it's an interesting comment. Are they trying to puff themselves up, or is there any substance to this? Here's Joy Reid.
Glad you mentioned Hillary Clinton, because I've seen, and I'm actually hearing from my friends in Florida. We know Florida is always the state that lives to disappoint Democrats. But the Villages, you and I both know, Nicole, the Villages is a stronghold of the Republican Party. But the Villages is seeing organizing among senior women, among older women, who didn't get the chance to have a woman president with Hillary Clinton. They are a secret base for Kamala Harris because they now see this as their second chance. And so the Hillary voters are mobilized. And you know, Florida is Clinton country and it's Obama country. Don't sleep. I'm not saying Florida necessarily is going to be delivered for the Democrats, but that's the kind of organizing in unusual spaces that we're seeing that women are embracing regardless of race, creed, or color or party. Republican women too.
Is there a secret base of Hillary Clinton lovers at the Villages, you think?
The numbers just don't reflect that. I mean, since the election of Ron DeSantis and then the re-election, you've had now the Republicans have accumulated, I believe it's like a 1 million voter registration advantage to the Democrats at this point. So maybe there's a small group of women who are really disappointed and they're going to go and man the phone lines and try to get out the vote for Kamala Harris. But certainly in the Villages, it's not going to be reflected.
So
look, I went to the Villages and they said to speak to a group that said they were very moderate Republican. And then I said that all Democrats are vile, godless, Marxist communists. And I got a standing ovation. That's a moderate.
That's very moderate, Steve. Okay. So we're going to do something that I never do. We're going to play something long form. We're going to bring the sucker up and we're going to do I've got it under a different button. Here we go. Okay, so we're going to bring up her speech. I want to listen to this. The first 10 minutes, we'll stop it intermittently, folks. We're doing it in 2x speed because that's all I can tolerate. So that's what's happening. I'm sorry. You should hear this. It's really important that we listen. Her intro of, like, she doesn't know how to handle an ovation, so she should have just stood there and just taken applause, but she's trying to shut it down because she's got to get out of there. She's on a time limit. But she's better than I would have thought. Here we go.
Please, thank you. Please, thank you so very much. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Okay, let's get to business. All right. So let me start by thanking my most incredible husband, Doug, for being an incredible partner to me, an incredible father to Cole and Ella, and happy anniversary, Dougie. I love you so very much. To our President Joe Biden, when I think about the path that we have traveled together, Joe, I am filled with gratitude. Your record is extraordinary, as history will show, and your character is inspiring, and Doug and I love you and Jill and are forever thankful to you both. And to Coach Tim Walz, you are going to be an incredible vice president. And to the delegates and everyone who has put your faith in our campaign, your support is humbling. So, America, the path that led me here in recent weeks was no doubt unexpected. But I'm no stranger to unlikely journeys.
You mean the coup?
The coup. But here's the thing. Here's the one thing I want people to listen to. Who did she thank just there?
She thanked the extraordinary Joe Biden.
And
her family.
And Tim Walz.
Tim Walz. Yeah. Coach, not assistant coach. It's coach.
Coach Walz, right. Where's God in this? This is a country that is overwhelmingly a Christian nation, whether you like it or not, and other people from other faiths also still call their God God. Monotheistic religion is still the number one thing in this country. She doesn't mention it at all. I just found that to be very interesting.
She's about to make reference to it as in the smallest possible way when she talks about her mother. Because she doesn't want to invoke the name God, but she has to talk about in eternity in some sense of the word, so that there's a reflection back on her that she has some level of faith.
She doesn't. No. Here we go. This is Steve. That's a good prediction. It would be what I would think you should do, like soft sell the God thing. Doesn't touch it at all. So that's very interesting. This is why we have to listen to this. But her story, her quote unquote origin story, which I've never heard her deliver this way, I understand why it resonates with people that don't ask any questions, and you should too. Here we go.
So, my mother, our mother, Kamala Harris, had one of her own, and I miss her every day, and especially right now. And I know she's looking down smiling. I know that. So my mother was 19 when she crossed the world alone, traveling from India to California with an unshakable dream to be the scientist who would cure breast cancer. When she finished school, she was supposed to return home to a traditional arranged marriage. But as fate would have it, she met my father, Donald Harris, a student from Jamaica. They fell in love and got married, and that act of self-determination made my sister Maya and me. Growing up, we moved a lot. I will always remember that big Mayflower truck packed with all our belongings, ready to go to Illinois, to Wisconsin, and wherever our parents' jobs took us. My early memories of our parents together are very joyful ones. A home filled with laughter and music, Aretha, Coltrane, and Miles. At the park, my mother would say, "Stay close." But my father would say, as he smiled, "Run, Kamala, run. Don't be afraid. Don't let anything stop you."
That's not a bad set of lines. It's not a bad story. It talks about mom and dad. Yeah, she lived in a single mother household. She was raised by a working mom, and that's semi-familiar to some people. It's not a great setup, but the story of my dad gave me.
Self-determination is a very American term. And in talking about as much as they're all in for the illegal aliens, both her parents are immigrants and they're trying to live the American dream.
Dude, the thing that bothers me is that is a great message of mom says, "Hey, I want to protect my babies, stay close." And dad says, "Run and push it and do those." That's a real dynamic. Anyway, all of this stuff is not foreign to regular people. And my point to you is that she is more skilled and she sounds more skilled. And this is a polished speech. There's no substance to this at all. I listened to the entire thing. There's zero policy in here that's going to make any difference. But that's not what these people are about. They wanted an electrifying speech. They got a person who stepped up and said, "I will give you all fluff, no stuff." And she delivered on it well.
The iron rule of politics is if it's about persons, It's personality driven. Democrats win. If it's about issues, Republicans win. And the candidate who looks forward into the future typically has the upper hand. So
let me keep
knows that.
Yeah, and she keeps talking about forward. Let's keep running this. She is obviously, her speechwriter is good.
From my earliest years, he taught me to be fearless. But the harmony between my parents did not last. When I was in elementary school, they split up. And it was mostly my mother who raised us. Before she could finally afford to buy a home, she rented a small apartment in the East Bay. In the Bay, you either live in the hills or the flatlands. We lived in the flats. A beautiful working-class neighborhood of firefighters, nurses, and construction workers, all who tended their lawns with pride. My mother, she worked long hours, and like many working parents, she leaned on a trusted circle to help raise us. Mrs. Shelton, who ran the daycare below us and became a second mother. Uncle Sherman, Aunt Mary, Uncle Freddie, Auntie Chris. None of them family by blood, and all of them family by love. Family who taught us how to make gumbo, how to play chess, and sometimes even let us win. Family who loved us, believed in us, and told us we could be anything and do anything. They instilled in us the values they personified: community, faith, and the importance of treating others as you would want to be treated, with kindness, respect, and compassion. My mother was a brilliant, 5-foot-tall, brown woman with an accent. And as the eldest child, I saw how the world would sometimes treat her. But my mother never lost her cool. She was tough, courageous, a trailblazer in the fight for women's health, and she taught Maya and me a lesson that Michelle mentioned the other night. She taught us to never complain about injustice, but do something about it. Do something about it. That was my mother.
Okay, go ahead.
Women's health. I mean,
her mom was interested in breast cancer.
Nobody will pick up on the reference to women's health as being her mother endeavoring to cure breast cancer, which is a noble endeavor.
Yep.
She's going to co-opt that in the memory of her mother and connect it to baby murder, which, unless you're willing to go through that second and third level thinking, you're not going to come to the conclusion that I have that that's the face of evil to say that.
It's really ugly. It turns out that Tucker Carlson actually agrees with you. But that story is, imagine if you've never seen Kamala Harris, because there are people that don't even know that she's the vice president. They're excited that she's running, but think about it. They go what has she done as vice president? Well, I didn't even know she was vice president. I don't even know anything about anything. I just know I'm being told to vote for her. If that's your first touch with Kamala Harris, and it's not the things, there's no cringy laughs. I've heard 0 cackles so far. 0. I want to keep playing. Her next little segment is actually maybe one of the strongest pieces. She's introducing herself as a strong candidate. Folks, don't get me wrong. I'm not telling you that I think this woman is a good leader or she's a good person or that she should be in charge of anything. I'm telling you that people will hear this and they will think differently than you and I do because of this, especially if this is the only thing they've ever heard. Here we go.
And she taught us, and she also taught us, and never do anything half-assed. And that is a direct quote. A direct quote. I grew up immersed in the ideals of the civil rights movement. My parents had met at a civil rights gathering, and they made sure that we learned about civil rights leaders, including the lawyers like Thurgood Marshall and Constance Baker Motley, those who battled in the courtroom to make real the promise of America. So at a young age, I decided I wanted to do that work. I wanted to be a lawyer. And when it came time to choose the type of law I would pursue, I reflected on a pivotal moment in my life. You see, when I was in high school, I started to notice something about my best friend Wanda. She was sad at school, and there were times she didn't want to go home. So one day I asked if everything was all right, and she confided in me that she was being sexually abused by her stepfather. And I immediately told her she had to come stay with us, and she did. This is one of the reasons I became a prosecutor, to protect people like Wanda, because I believe everyone has a right to safety, to dignity, and to justice. As a prosecutor, when I had a case, I charged it not in the name of the victim, but in the name of the people. For a simple reason. In our system of justice, a harm against any one of us is a harm against all of us. And I would often explain this to console survivors of crime, to remind them, no one should be made to fight alone. We are all in this together. And every day, in the courtroom, I stood proudly before a judge, and I said 5 words: Kamala Harris for the people. And to be clear, my entire career, I've only had one client, the people. And so, on behalf of the people, on behalf of every American, regardless of party, race, gender, or the language your grandmother speaks, on behalf of my mother and everyone who has ever set out on their own unlikely journey, on behalf of Americans like the people I grew up with, people who work hard, chase their dreams, and look out for one another, on behalf of everyone whose story could only be written in the greatest nation on earth, I accept your nomination to be President of the United States. States of America.
Go ahead.
For the people, that she's rerunning that old tagline from her past political endeavors, so that she's comfortable with that. And again, it's compelling to people who aren't willing to think of what that means. And let's state it a different way. For the people, from their perspective, from her political worldview, means it takes a village, which also means from each according to his ability to each according to his needs. Mm-hmm. So she's advocating for communism, very much like Barack Obama did a couple of nights before that, but doing it in the flowery, pro-American type of language that her speechwriter provided for her, and she delivered it in a compelling way.
I think it's a brilliant speech. I think that any Republican could have given that speech, and it would have meant something different to us. And if you don't know anything about Kamala Harris, and you don't know that she's the vice president, and you don't know that she's got failed border policies and cackles weirdly and does strange socially awkward things and basically is a complete socialist when it comes to her policies, if you don't know any of those things and you hear that, you're like, that's just like me. I also have friends who I consider to be family. I also had family members who were playing chess with us and let us win board games sometimes. Like, I also want to know that there is someone out there that is going to protect the weak and so on. This is a very compelling speech. And if you guys don't get that, if you discount her, then you do so at your peril. So this is far from in the bag. As you said, the other guy got shot and a bullet hit his head. It may have been an ear, but that's a head. That's the head. That's in the cranial spectrum here. And it didn't even change their marching one bit. It didn't slow them down a little bit. And this woman is out there delivering this. And this is a very powerful speech, whether you like it or not. I got a few more minutes of it. Let's see where we're at in there. We're at about 10 minutes. Actually, that's probably good enough for what I wanted to deliver. I wanted you guys to see that. I've got some additional pieces of it that we will play. So these are the things that the right wing is going to be talking about. That first 10 minutes is really powerful. So I took some notes. So we'll just kind of cut to these real quick. So the second 10 minutes, she basically says Trump is bad, that he's going to release all the J6ers who are actually terrorists. That's an interesting thing for you and I to laugh about, that he's going to bring about chaos. After that, she spends about 10 minutes talking about the middle class. And this is where she doesn't talk about policy, but what she does say is that we are going to create an economy of opportunity. We're going to lower prices, no specifics. We're going to create opportunity for the middle class. We're going to make housing more affordable, which is obviously the opposite of what it does. And that the alternative is Donald Trump, who believes in a national sales tax, the Trump tax, which I don't know what the hell that is. I haven't heard him say it, but so be it. He's going to raise prices, no further information, and he's going to benefit the wealthy. So this is how she's substantiated, like she's basically set them up. I'm for the people, he's not. It's a compelling pitch if you don't know anything.
It's a compelling pitch if you don't actually realize that she's currently an incumbent. They completely did a 180. And they made Donald Trump the incumbent from this argument. And she's the candidate of change. But it's back to the iron law. It's going to be personality driven and looking to the future, as opposed to being the guy that when I get in there, it's going to, the message that they're saying is, well, Donald Trump gets elected and it's going to be the revenge tour looking backwards.
Before we lose you, because we're going to lose you in a couple minutes here, let me play the clips that are going around on the political right. These are the things they think are going to destroy her. I think it plays to the base. I think those first 10 minutes are the things that they're going to be seeing nonstop. They're not going to see this per se. Here is Donald Trump is going to let free all the terrorists and lock up the journalists.
Consider his explicit intent to set free violent extremists who assaulted those law enforcement officers at the Capitol. His explicit intent to jail journalists, political opponents, and anyone he sees as the enemy. His explicit intent to deploy our active duty military against our own citizens. Consider.
I'm saying.
Self-awareness, journalists like Steve Baker, whose entire freedom rests on the outcome of this election. Most likely, if Kamala Harris wins, he's going to prison. Not questioning my mind about it. And they look at you, they say, this is sort of like, hey, don't pee on my leg and tell me it's raining. I think on the American Radicals podcast, I said, they're peeing in your mouth and telling you it's Gatorade, but doing so to red meat to the base and not being specific enough, being personality driven.
It's the same thing as them talking about the weaponized government. That's what Donald Trump is. They've been painting this throughout the week, and we showed it. No self-awareness, full projection, and she's literally running against her own record as a vice president and because of her administration that she's in. And at the same time, it's successful because Donald Trump was the incumbent last time. They're running 2020 again with the addition of January of 2021. They get to add that to the campaign this time, and not much else.
Donald Trump got shot in the face 40 days ago, and we don't hear anything about it. And I have to hear about January 6th every 40 minutes for the last 4 years. That is because they have a movement and the Republicans don't.
It's all true. Here's the abortion piece of it. Like I said, there's a reason why they trotted out Kate Cox and why they were smiling about kill a baby to make a baby, and that baby will be there in a political token for Kamala or whatever the heck. Here she is making this claim. I said, this will be on the right, and they'll talk about it, but it actually moves the needle for them.
And when Congress passes a bill to restore reproductive freedom, as President of the United States, I will proudly sign it into law.
They're showing a guy with a baby in his arms cheering, and people are cheering for abortion. That's the grossest thing I've ever seen.
I mean, you don't hate the media enough. You think you hate them, but that's televised by the media there. That's not brought to you by DNC camera work.
That's right. Let me give you some validation and vindication from the things you said earlier. If any of you guys are out there going like, this is not real, this is not what it's about, that's not how people think, I'm going to give you another voice that you're used to listening to. It's going to validate everything Steve and I are talking about.
Consider what he intends to do if we give him power again. Consider his explicit intent to set free violent extremists who assaulted those law enforcement officers at the Capitol. His explicit intent to jail journalists, political opponents, and anyone he sees as the enemy.
Can I just interject here for a second? This woman's really scary. She could easily get elected president. She's much more skillful than I have ever seen. She's a liar on the deepest level. The things she is saying right now are not just untrue. They're the opposite of the truth, which is the hallmark of evil. She's an extremist. She'll say anything. She's much more like Gavin Newsom than I ever realized. I could go through a whole litany of why what she's saying is not true. It wasn't an armed mob. There was not one person inside the Capitol with a firearm, period. The only person who was shot in the Capitol was an unarmed woman shot by one of Nancy Pelosi's bodyguards. So again and again, she's telling us that she fought the cartels to secure the border. She's the border czar, and the border is controlled by the cartels.
She argued that Donald Trump, quote, tried to throw away your votes. Didn't the Democrat Party just throw away all the votes and install her?
Okay, that's Tucker Carlson. He's agreeing with your statement earlier. The power of what she's saying is there, it's real, and it's dangerous, and it's scary.
And you cannot overcome it by yelling back to your base about the hypocrisy, because the terming a communist a hypocrite has gotten us to the point, like you and I being called racist. We're like, all right, cool story, bro. The callus is really thick on that one. It doesn't give me a case of the feels. Same thing goes for them. They hypocrites, which is why they just continue to just lie to you in your face and gaslight you and are unashamed about that. There has to be another attack here. And I continue to go back to you have to lean in to what you've been characterized by their side, and you have to present a clear message, a bold message, and say, look, I'm going to own that title anyway. I'm already going after women. I'm anti-woman. Well, why don't you go ahead and say, I can't overcome that message, and I'm going to full on in full-throated say Amendment 4 in Florida is fundamentally evil and it needs to go down.
In the same way that they said one person's socialism is another person's neighborliness. Before we lose you here, because I know you're stepping off for another call, will you tell people what's coming up for AMRAD on this weekend?
Well, I mean, that's why I've been harping on this life issue, because that's what we're going to be digging deep on tomorrow on rumble.com/AMRADpod is where you can find us. Where there's going to be a life or death is the title of the show. And we're talking about actually how bad it has gotten to this point. And then, just parting shot. Look, Kamalamanism hasn't been tried, right? To Sweden, unless, of course, there's a chest cold.
I like that you cut out a little bit on there. Your connection is starting to break up on us, which is always interesting. You must be either getting the call or more stuff coming in. But Steve, thank you for joining us. Yes, folks, go listen about Amendment 4 if you're interested in what's going on in Florida. The AMRAD Pod, it's rumble.com/AMRAD Pod. Follow Steve at Real Steve Friend. It's in the show description, so you guys can cut and paste it in. Thanks, buddy. Thanks for being here with us. We're going to wrap up.
Have a good weekend.
All right, bud. See you soon. Okay, folks, I'm not done with this. I am not done, not even a little bit. We're going to keep pushing forward because there are a few more points that I would like to make, and I think that you guys should also see. There is a piece about Gaza that's going to be really hard for her to be able to deal with. She's going to have to stand with Israel because there's money there, but she's trying to thread the needle because the radical part of her party is outside rioting and breaking windshields and destroying people's stuff right outside, and she kind of needs them to be amped up with her. This is how she addressed the Gaza conflict. So here's a little taste of that. These are the only 3 clips, and then we're going to go in. We'll have a little bit of a lighthearted leave, and I'm going to give you, again, CNN giving an actually honest take on it, which is sort of nice.
With respect to the war in Gaza, President Biden and I are working around the clock because now is the time to get a hostage deal and a ceasefire deal done. And let me be clear, I will always stand up for Israel's right to defend itself, and I will always ensure Israel has the ability to defend itself, because the people of Israel must never again face the horror that a terrorist organization called Hamas caused on October 7.
She's completely running away from the record of the Biden administration, which is a complete failure on the world stage to project American power and to basically let people know that going after anyone that is underneath our little circle of protection, that's a death sentence. That's not something that people believe, which is why you have a war in Ukraine, which is why you have turmoil in the Middle East, which is why you have them striking air bases, like Hezbollah going out and striking air bases, and you have terrorist forces trying to kill people in Iraq. You know, my buddy just got back from fighting over there, and it's troubling. But you saw the clapping seals, you hear them, you know that they're excited about this. Do not underestimate what this woman's capabilities are, because they asked for an electrifying convention and didn't have to have any substance, and that didn't slow anybody down about how they feel. This is Scott Jennings again on CNN. I want you guys to see it. I think it's reasonable. I hope people hear that. I think they have a bigger audience than MSNBC. You're never going to reach that audience. Maybe people on CNN heard this and thought, man, that guy's actually really reasonable. He's right. But I don't think a lot of them did. I think a lot of people went, I love Oprah. I love Michelle. They both said that we're racist, and I have to cheer for it. And that's why we got to vote for this lady. So it's a pitch. It's the pitch that's being made.
President. I think this whole convention has really been built on trying to get people to get comfortable with the presidency without really knowing how it would operate. I mean, a lot of what we know about Harris comes from her own record, her voting record in the Senate, liberal, her statements when she ran for president, very liberal, and her actions is working for Joe Biden, which resulted in a mid-30s approval rating for the Biden-Harris administration. Now, through anonymous spokespeople, a lot of that's been attempted to be walked back. Nothing we've heard this week and nothing we heard last night would tell you what would they do if they got elected president. So I as a voter, I think we need to hear a little bit more about that. All the things we heard last night from Oprah to everything else is about, hey, she's got the right vibe, so let's just vote for it and see what happens. To me, that's not quite good enough. I mean, she's obviously come a long way in the polls from where Biden was, but to get over the hump, I really do think you got to tell people, what would your actions be? The one policy she has unveiled has been panned across the board by economists and media alike since she did it on Friday. So I think she's going to have to get a little more serious about what would you do as the president.
Let me ask you.
I don't think she has to get more serious, people. I don't think this country is serious. I don't think the people that vote in this country are serious. I don't think people know anything about who it is. Vibes is going to carry this election, unfortunately. And Trump is exhausted from 8 years of it. That's not to tell you that there's not a huge movement of people that are excited, but they're interested in policies. And Steve just said it right. If this becomes about personality, if this becomes about the person, and that is exactly what they are trying to turn it, and the media is doing everything they can to do so, That electricity, that excitement, that who gives a shit about what they're actually saying. It's not interesting to talk about, boring policy details. We just want to know that we feel good about who's going to be out there. And they tell us stuff. Barack Obama did a disastrous job to this country, but everybody felt good about it. Everybody that was into him is still into him. He didn't lose any credibility. And they're building this AstroTurf movement for her. Every single fake poll that you see, and I do think they're fake, I think a lot of them are made up, are going to be real at some point. And moreover, they are insulating their position. They are making it so that they can easily argue that, of course, she got 83 million votes, which is what Steve and I talked about before we went live today. Let me lean over on my friends at Shield Arms, and they are my friends. I've got friends that are actually working in the company. They're a great company of shooters. And if you guys are interested in making sure that your concealed carry options are well suited, shieldarms.com. The promo code KYLE is where you can go save money on their magazine accessories. They make base plates and stuff like that for your carry Glocks. They make them for some other guns as well. They certainly make them for the 43, the 43X, and the Glock 48, which Steve and I both carry either a 43X or a 48. My dad carries one as well. I'm going to send him some of their arms. They add a capacity from 10 to 15 in their flush fit. So you can basically increase the round capability by 50%. Massive deal. Save 5% using my name, KYLE, on their stuff site-wide. You can go feel the guns, and you can feel their actual ARs and things like that. If you want to go to like a Cabela's, or if you want to go to a Bass Pro, they sell in some other stores. But end of the day, if you guys want to save some money on the S10, which is their chop version, or the S15, which is what I carry every single day, and the plus 5s, the plus 2s, and so on, they make an awesome, really, really well done piece of equipment. They were being evaluated by FBI's HRT, by the way, for a while. I actually talked to the owners there, and I'm like, hey, what happened? Why did you guys fail the HRT test? And they're like, we fed fine and the magazines were great. The reason that they failed is because at some point in time, they created a test that if you put the magazine on the ground and a fat guy jumps on it in boots and they release rounds, then they don't pass. And I was like, oh, well, if I drop a magazine on the ground and a fat guy's jumping on my magazine, I got bigger problems. In any case, they feed great. I've gone out there and gone hundreds of rounds. There's plenty of videos of that being the case. Check them out. Because America's going to get spicy. That's why I say that. I'm literally like, I made a deal with them specifically because I think they make a good product, and I don't think America's going to be a good spot very soon. And buy them now before they get outlawed, if that's the thing that's going to go on. All right, I got a little bit of lightheartedness. It'd be nice if these were the issues. Maybe you can make people figure it out with a joke. This kind of stuff needs to be out there over and over again. Maybe you can reach out to the Gen Z, the fools, the Gen A, the alpha types. Laugh about this. Cry about it. This is what it really looks like when the people, like she represented California. Here's California for you.
Just a little bit of this and a little bit of that.
Have you ever thought to yourself, I wish my small town could be more like the urban slums of California? Why can't there be more trash and feces on the streets of this sleepy little town? Well, we've got the solution. Dipshizzy. By voting to install Dipshizzy, you can help every small town in America become more like the dumpster fire that are the cities of California. Dipshizzy won't just destroy small towns either. It works wonders in the countryside too. By pushing socialist economic policies, Dipshizzy can rapidly create inflation, making everything more expensive. Ask yourself if Dipshizzy is right for you and your community. Because why settle for the good life when you can have a California dumpster fire?
Dipshizzy is not intended to treat, prevent, or cure any disease. In fact, Dipshizzy will probably make your life much worse. Side effects of Dipshizzy include overdrawn bank accounts, illegal immigration, and communist-style government. Consult with your father before starting Dipshizzy. Do not start Dipshizzy if you enjoy the First or Second Amendment. If you're a dude who likes to wear thongs, Dipshizzy may be right for you.
We try to have a little laugh about it. That may be the only way that you make these people that are interested in the vibes get it, is with humor. And in the meantime, you can shore yourself up and you can shore your own life up. And I highly recommend that you guys do that. I actually had a little thing that I was going to play about the FBI, but we'll do that on Monday. The FBI is out there getting their information from the Southern Poverty Law Center. So stick around for Monday's show as well. And we'll cover down on what happens when you take a politically active, like lunatic fringe group on the political left and you let them direct your investigations as federal law enforcement. That's pretty scary stuff. The last little thing that I wanted to play you guys, and first we'll do a 5-star review, and then I'll go and give you the palate cleanse that'll walk you into the weekend, which I think is actually more redeeming than any of that. Dipshizzy is funny, for sure. But the more important thing, it kind of sews up this week where we talked about gold and some other things, so and also about value. So here we go. Here's a 5-star review. This is coming from Not So Happy Camper. She's putting her husband on blast on our show. Thanks for writing the review. We appreciate it. 5 stars. Miles Franklin, gold. Thanks so much for doing the interview with Andy Schectman. It's just what I needed to share with my husband. Gold, wealth conservation, not get rich overnight. Yeah, he's one of those guys, smiley face, kind of an eek smiley face. Don't put your husband on blast on my show. I'll read it. I will. I appreciate that you liked the episode. That's why we did it. I know it saved some of you some money. Andy has reached out to me since then, and some of you have as well, letting me know that a lot of you were thinking about doing these things, and it's given you at least the right questions to ask. He's told me that he's gotten literally dozens of phone calls that they've given them recommendations on how to try to get their money back. He said it just looks like people reaching in their pocket. And he said if we had an FBI that did the right thing, they would stop this kind of fraudulent stuff. And he wasn't going to mention names, so he won't. But Birch Gold, Patriot Gold, Goldco, Alpha Gold, a bunch of these other companies, they're all out there doing the same thing. So if they're trying to pitch you a precious metals IRA and they're going to give you the numbers that look like ask them for the numbers and what they're asking you to invest in. And you guys can listen to the show, and you really should. So, and by the way, I understand that some of you are over on Facebook and so on, and it gets cut away and you guys can't do it. I understand that too. And that's a bummer. It is what it is, but we'll spread the message where we've got it. Social media is the tool that we have. We just have to use it as it is. Okay. This palate cleanse is about gold a little bit, which is interesting, and it validates the stuff that Andy said. But the end of it is the most important for me. Listen to what he says about a spouse. A house divided will not stand. You can't stand against yourself. And it doesn't mean that we all have to agree on things politically. What it means is shore up your own home and make sure you and your spouse have the same values, the same mindset for the future, and that you see the same threats in the same way and your willingness to address them is the same. That means if I've already told my wife, if somebody comes at us, there's a video running around on social media of a guy jumping out of his car with a gun. If somebody comes at us with a gun, I'm shooting through the windshield. We'll get a new windshield. You don't get to get close enough to my family with a gun in your hand. I will end you. And you should have the same idea. And don't let your wife be the person that tries to stop you from that. They need to understand what that threat is. Same thing. Husbands and wives, get on the same page for a lot of this stuff. So that's what this video means to me. That's where I'm kind of sharing it. It's the final thought is your house needs to be united because we are going into difficult times. It doesn't make a difference who wins. Because even if Donald Trump wins the election, all those loonies that have been getting emboldened in Seattle, and there's tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of them, they will come to your city. They will come to your small town if they can. And they will make this place turned upside down because they're upset. So whether they win or lose, we all are going to lose a little bit. That's why I keep telling you, this is going to get Western. And what they did in the West was they made posses and they banded together. And they also had to have strong houses that were on the same value train. Enjoy this little this clip. I think it is uplifting, especially how long this man's been married.
Excuse me, sir. Question for you. Have you ever been broke before?
Why do you ask that?
I started a channel.
What's
to Mike. I started a channel at the University of Texas in Austin. I grew it to 7 million followers, and I don't have.
I've been broke.
Yeah?
Yes.
What did you do for a living?
I was in Wall Street.
And what did you do after Wall Street?
I'm still doing it. I manage money.
What was the most amount of money that you ever made in a single year?
It was income.
How much was that?
$14 million.
$14 million. What is one lesson about money or business that you would give to somebody that they will not learn in school?
Okay, it's very simple. Believe nothing that you hear and only half of what you see, because the other half is an illusion. And that's the most important thing I could teach somebody.
And in your opinion, what's the best industry people should be looking to get into in today's world?
It's gold.
Gold?
It's gold.
Why is that?
In January of 23, the central bank for all central banks in the world came out with Basel III, and it put gold as a tier 1 legal asset in the global banking system. There's 3 legal assets, tier 1. There's cash, sovereign bonds, and now gold. So gold is where you want to be.
Are you a business owner?
Well, I run money.
What was the greatest lesson that you learned about entrepreneurship?
Every dollar you think you need to get into business, add 10, because you're going to run out of money. And the most important thing in my life that makes me successful is finding the right woman. This is our 62nd anniversary today. If you're a man and you're going down a path that has a lot of challenges, most wives become part of the problem. I have one became always part of the solution.
And that is it. Make sure that your wife, your husband, whatever that situation, whatever the problem you see, that you guys are both part of the same solution and you're not part of the problem for the other. I think it's just the easiest thing in the world. Get your house aligned. For those of you that are interested in our sponsors, you guys can always go down and look in the show notes in the description, whether you're listening on the audio or whether you're listening or watching us on the video. You can find all of our sponsors, whether it be Shield Arms or whether it be Mad Hat Jerky or the My Patriot Supply, all those things there. You can find them all in the show notes. So thanks for supporting the program. Additionally, if you guys wanted to go ask questions about gold, go to milesfranklin.com. I don't advertise for them at all. That's just me telling you that they said they would help you if you got scammed. So if you're looking for some way to do that, and I don't hold a lot of gold, I don't hold a lot of gold at all. I hold brass and lead, and I was very honest about that. I have somewhere between 50 and 100,000 rounds of ammo, which is what I do. but I probably will look into gold more, only because I'm interested and I talk to smart people. And when somebody tells you that they make $14 million in a year, those are the kind of people that I'm interested in. I'm not interested in the people that have been able to make a few dollars in crypto. They're just a different kind of breed. They understand money in a way that I'm not interested in. So that's what I've got for you today. I hope you guys have a wonderful weekend. I really do. I hope that you guys go out there and take care of yourselves, meet your neighbors, make friends with them, sign off the social media, and understand that if you want durability in this country, it's going to happen at a very local level for you. Because the national media is going to be pushing this Kamala Harris thing, and I hope you guys got a sense of how serious it is. This is not someone to be trifled with politically. And I didn't realize it until basically this morning as I was listening to her speak, even at 2X. Those are powerful speeches, and they will move people. Dumb people, but people nonetheless. People who have the right to vote. So that's what I got for you guys. I hope you'll share this. And whenever they fix the Rumble, the Rumble thumbs up, make sure you guys like the video too. All right, we'll see you again on Monday. God bless you.
Thanks for listening to the Kyle Seraphin Show, streamed live weekdays on rumble.com/Kyle Seraphin. Follow Kyle on Twitter, Truth Social, and Instagram at Kyle Seraphin.